This is a diagram of cash flow for anybody. This even fits things like businesses to a degree. But what we have here is I. Same I from before, me. Except this time it's not an insured individual. I just want you to know that that's the same I as before, an individual. We have money. Now, our money comes to us, so they are coming in from wages. We work, we get paid, we have money. Money leaves us very quickly, goes to things like expenses, bills, electric bill, gas bill, insurance bills, blah, 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 bills, the shit nobody likes to deal with. This little area right here, letter V, it's actually for investments, things like your retirement plan, stuff like that. I chose V so you don't get confused with I. But this tends to leave before you even get to touch it. It's taken out of your wages, but it's there on the outside, just so you know about it. And what's left, this little area over here, little for most of us, not for all of us, is this, DI, disposable income. This is what's left after you pay your bills and all your obligations financially are met. We do two things with our disposable income. B, give it to the bank and put it in savings, in which case, essentially, you're losing it again, but it's always there in case you need it. It's just not in your pocket. And C, consumption. Consumption, like I said before, super goddamn important. Consumption is the driving force of this economy because let's say you're consuming Doritos, my example from before. The consumption of Doritos employs thousands of people in this country. The truck drivers that drive it across the state lines, the guys that work at 7-Eleven and make sure you don't rob the place. I mean, just the people that grow the corn, the people that process the corn, the people that work in the plants to make sure the machines are working. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The consumption of Doritos is responsible for the employment of a lot of people. Your consumption, my consumption, everybody's all together. Consumption drives this economy. Now, consumption is also good for the government because the government taxes consumption. Think about it. I'm in Massachusetts. We have Massachusetts meal tax. We have tax on everything except for clothing these days, I think. I mean, just the tax on cigarettes is insane. You're from New York, you know about it. I mean, like 150%, 200% tax on things that we consume. So every time we consume these, the government gets a cut, the producers get a cut, and we funnel this whole huge thing we call the economy. It's just basically a bunch of people consuming each other's goods and services. Pretty simple. Now, what is really cool here, if you enhance the conditions of consumption, I use an up arrow because we're enhancing, and because the arrow is a triangle is the Greek symbol delta. Delta means change, we're changing things for the better, up, good. We're enhancing disposable income across the board. That means we're really enhancing consumption because maybe now you have the kind of disposable income lets you buy that plasma screen you always wanted. Maybe now you can afford to pay somebody else to cut your grass. Maybe now you can do whatever the fuck you want with it. It's your money. But one other positive is enhancing consumption enhances tax dollars. And this one's a plus sign, not a T. But we drastically enhance the amount of revenue Uncle Sam gets from taxes. So not only does he have taxes on the direct consumption, the sale of goods and services across a counter, but the people on the other side of that counter are employed by a company. That company has them on their payroll and they pay a payroll tax to the government. So the government gets to tax the Christ out of consumption. Don't be upset with that. That's a good thing. That's the type of thing that pays for your army to go over and find bin Laden in Iraq. Or wait, he wasn't there, was he? Or, I don't know, this kind of consumption is the kind of thing that allows for all sorts of good shit. I mean, there are wind turbines down near your house, that's where it comes from. Government? Big government? Oh no, big government, yeah. It all comes from consumption. We enhance the conditions of consumption, we enhance the revenue of the United States government. We can enhance it to the point where it can afford health care for yet another reason. This is just one. We will be able to increase the tax revenue that is meant to pay for health care. I got another diagram. Now, a lot of people saying the government won't be able to afford universal health care. It's because they're calculating the sum of money that it could possibly generate in the future based on present values for health care. the present values for healthcare are screwed. And that's because of this handy dandy diagram. You remember this from before. So uninsured goes to hospital, insured goes to hospital, yada yada. Money comes from everywhere, it goes not really here, but mainly to these guys, the insurance providers. And so, back to the old argument, universal healthcare, what happens is, if the hospital is no longer paying for the care of the uninsured by charging the hell out of the insured, and the insurance provider having to pay for that, then what happens is you'll see a decrease in the price of healthcare. Healthcare costs so much right now because the hospital can only charge this portion of its customers for its entire operating cost. So a small portion of the people that come through its doors are paying every single goddamn penny for those doors to be open. Now, if we eliminate the uninsured, the hospital is getting paid for every single thing it does for all of us, and none of us are paying this insurance provider, and we all have our increase in disposable income. And our employer, from E of I employer, from our last little diagram over there, this guy also gets an increase in disposable income. And this is another fun part, increase DI. So the score is, first off, universal healthcare, price of healthcare falls. I'm going to put this P of hospital, O, price of healthcare drops just by insuring these goddamn people, not through a private insurance provider who is a profit maximizing entity, through the United States government, who is a quality maximizing entity. That's what they do. They try to provide a universal level of good healthcare for all Americans. That's their goal, not to make money.